Welcome to Whispers to a Bride, where we talk about the stuff no one else is talking about. We are going deep on the emotional aspects of getting married, the stress, drama, and turbulence that affects your own sense of identity and your closest relationships. We are talking about what it means to be a bride and how to navigate this sacred time with more grace and ease. I'm your host, Kara Gassabay. As a life coach and therapist, I'm going to be sharing super practical tips so that you can not only rise to the occasion of your wedding, but also your life. Hello, and welcome back to Whispers to a Bride. I am your host, Kara Gassabay, resident life coach and bride whisperer. And today I am so thrilled to talk to you about a topic that will help you in wedding planning, but also way after. And that is this idea of sweating the small stuff. I know, your whole life you have been told, especially if you're one of these like type A overachieving females, that you shouldn't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about the little stuff. And of course, there are so many ways in which that is true. If you have perfectionist tendencies and get very caught up in details and rigid thinking about how things have to happen, and you lose your joy by getting stuck in sort of the minutia of your work or your planning or whatever it is. But I do want you to think about turning that advice on its head and keep in your mind the idea of sweating the small stuff as a way to wake up a little more to the present moment. And that is one of the things that culturally is always such a struggle in this sort of go, go, go atmosphere that we're all striving and trying to get somewhere. In wedding planning, you're trying to get to the big moment, the big day. It's all about the big. And it's funny because I think for a lot of brides, they can just keep on deferring the enjoyment until the big moment that happens on the big day. So it's like, okay, like I'm just going to keep my head down and work really hard and like suffer through the planning, and then I'll have my joy in some big moment. Maybe you're pinning your joy on the moment you walk down the aisle, or the first dance, or the toast, or the first look, or whatever it is, the dance floor. And I just think that there is so much A, risk in that, and B, missed opportunity. So A, the risk, having just been at my brother's wedding and just remembering in real time, like so much can be happening. You could have a stomachache the day of your wedding. Somebody could like not show up that you really were counting on. Like things can happen that you can't really plan for. And if you have waited this whole time and promised yourself that you would meet your joy then, and then there's this new complicating factor that you didn't count on, you can see how, again, you'll be robbed of that joy. But if you pay attention to the small moments, you sweat the small stuff going along, in every moment of planning, there can be joy. In every vendor meeting, in every daydreaming, in every Pinterest searching, right? Finding the joy, letting yourself marinate in the joy, letting yourself have those experiences instead of continuing to defer your delight. That is what I want you to think about when I say sweat the small stuff. The other thing that I want you to think about in terms of like this idea of sweating the small stuff is in your relationship. You know, I love Dr. Gottman and his sort of research on what makes relationships really work over sort of the long haul. And that is not how people do on the big things, right? It is obviously very important to agree on some of these big buckets, but you can actually not see eye to eye on some of these big life things like spirituality or politics or whatever if you are kind in those small moments, right? If you sweat the small stuff in your relationship. So what that looks like is when your partner comes in and asks you what your opinion was on something that happened in the news, and you're just like so busy over here, like doing your thing. You're like, I don't like what? I don't care about that. And sort of ignoring your husband, letting the moment go by, letting that, if your partner comes in and says, oh my gosh, did you notice like when those clouds rolled in at 3 o'clock, it had this like really cool sky and you're just like, what? Like, right? There's so many moments where our partner will initiate a contact, initiate a communication. Like, again, they're usually very trivial and very small and mundane. And you can easily trick yourself into thinking, like, no, we'll talk later and have a big conversation, right? When really, every time that we ignore our partner's bid to connect with us, we're chipping away at the very foundation of the relationship. And you can imagine how over years, right, if every time your partner tried to like have you admire the bird out the window or have you share their excitement about a sporting event that they just watched or wanting to tell you about the latest drama at the workplace, like whatever it is, even just saying good morning, if you're like, ignore that somehow. And again, in some ways, it seems like it's impossible to do. And yet I can tell you it is possible to get into that place where you're just like, no, I'm going to focus on the big stuff and this little stuff I cannot focus on. And that is the wrong approach. It's because your marriage is made of a million tiny moments. It is the small stuff that actually matters in the relationship. And that, I think, is something that I really just want to drive home that point. And you can probably start to see it now in your wedding planning journey and the engagement. There's a lot coming at you as a couple. There's a lot in the mix, a lot of big conversations, a lot of heavy stuff. It can be really easy to start slipping on really connecting and paying attention to those small moments, especially when you've told yourself, well, we're making a big commitment. So the small stuff doesn't matter as much anymore. And I'm telling you, the small stuff is what matters. It's what's always mattered. It's what always will matter. And I just think it's such a nice reminder. It's also a great reminder on your wedding day to think about the small moments. I was talking to a bride the other day about how to just really take a few seconds when you see some of your guests and just look at them in the eye and say, thank you for being here. I'm so thrilled you're here. It can feel overwhelming. Like, well, I've got 150 guests. I've got 300 guests. I can't talk to everybody. Nobody's saying that you can talk to everybody or create this special moment with everyone, but you can make sure that you're not so distracted and up here in the clouds looking for your big moment of joy that you're missing a ton of tiny little moments. Because that is where the joy is. It's in the teeny tiny things. Trust me, I know from parenting, it's never the big moments that you think it's going to be. Those always are like, it's at the birthday parties and stuff, there's always just a million things going on. And it's so hard to hang on and have all your joy waiting for you in that moment. It's so much better if you can cultivate the joy and the pleasure and the gratitude and the excitement all the way leading up. The big moments will take care of themselves, right? The big things in your life will take it. It's the same thing with building a new habit. Like if you want to lose weight or get a new job or something, it's not going to be one big thing that happens, right? I'm noticing it in my business. There's not like one big move I can make to suddenly feel I'm, as successful as I want to be. It's what do I do a ton of times over and over? What tiny decisions do I make every day that will then, when I'm not looking, become this bigger concept that I am striving for and wanting and looking for? But like, there's no way to create those big moments of joy or success or gratitude if you don't take the time to sweat the small stuff, lean in, wake up, appreciate, enjoy, and take it all in. So I hope this little reminder is helpful to you in all of your relationships, in just almost anything you're doing in life. Think about sweating the small stuff in a way that brings more delight, more joy, more openness, not the sweating the small stuff where you're like getting yourself stressed out and flipped out over a font choice or a color. This isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about moments of connection and moments of presence and small ways of showing how much you love yourself, your friends, your partner, your family, your wedding, your life. So thank you for tuning in. It's my pleasure to share this time and space with you. And if you are feeling at all inclined to reach out, I am here for you. I love talking with you guys one-on-one. It's been so wonderful lately having conversations about like being triggered by the moms and how to take in the big day and just how to quell the anxieties and friendship dramas. So again, I'm here for all of it. KaraMorning.com. Book your call with me today. You will not regret it. This is what part of you is yearning for. This is the preparation of the spirit, of the soul, of the mind, and of the heart that every bride needs and most importantly deserves. So until next time, I am wishing you nothing but bridal bliss.